Banana?
I'm good, thanks.
What was that about? Why are you laughing like that?
Because I've already hit record and you didn't know it.
Wow. That was rude.
So now we just got you chewing on a banana for the first 2 or 3 seconds. Please, Archer, no. Archer, please.
You're going to have to stop this.
No. Fine. I didn't.
And I'm not done.
Just give it.
Stop.
This is not an ASMR video. Fine. Hello, and welcome to Father Time, formerly Father and Son. I'm your host, Evan. Absent as always is Jer. And we have a returning guest today, my good friend Archer, and COO of Evco Productions. For those of you who didn't know, because apparently he didn't.
I did not either. It is only recently that I've been informed of my own promotion.
Yeah, well, it wasn't really a promotion. You were kind of just, in my mind, always the second in command. But
I appreciate that.
yeah, it's whatever.
Finally, I'm receiving the recognition I've been long due in this industry.
Yes, Lord knows. So I thought for like, there's 2 notes that I want to like get out of the way.
Okay.
At the beginning.
Sure.
First is, I realize we only have like 10 listeners on average.
Yes.
I still feel guilty that I built up for like 3 or 4 episodes the New Year's Eve podcast. And then we just didn't.
We have some
freaking do it.
explaining to do, dear listener.
Yeah. So, Jer came back for Christmas
From the military.
from the military. So we were going to have actually 2 FNS episodes recorded.
Yes, we had 2 planned.
And Jer and I recorded one of them. And Jer, which he has done before, lost the freaking audio file.
Oh, really?
Or no, actually, I'm sorry. That's incorrect. Jer has lost an audio file before. This time, it was like, it recorded everything I said and nothing he said.
Oh.
Like whatever bot or whatever we used didn't pick up his voice.
So you only have half of podcast.
Yeah, so that episode...
That doesn't work.
Yeah, that didn't work. He was like, maybe I'll just like go through and record myself going like, yeah, to everything you're saying. And I'm like, no, Jer, we don't want to do that.
I don't know, I kind of want that. I feel like that'd be hilarious.
I think it would have been funny, but...
and if it was just completely out of context, too.
Yeah.
Like, not even on topic.
Yeah, it would have been funny. It's just nobody would have understood. Yeah. And at the time it happened, both of us were just too angry about it to like thinking that.
Yeah.
I get kind of mad whenever it doesn't work. I spend an hour recording and for nothing.
It's just
like
gone.
Yeah,
which that's fair, I think. The second one,
the New Year's one, it was a little bit different. So
it was frankly unusable.
It was, and it's more notable that it was an hour and a half and still unusable. Yeah. Like there was maybe 20 minutes we could have gotten out of it.
More content that we could have trimmed through, and still yet it was not worth it.
Yeah, it really wasn't. It wasn't worth the effort. And the reason for that is something we're just not going to get into it. I think it's probably best if we...
I think in general, despite the amazing crew that we have for producing Evco Productions videos, this crew is not conducive to a coherent conversation late at night in this specific group.
Yeah, especially on New Year's.
If I wanted to put it gently, we're too funny for our own good. At least to ourselves.
Yeah, I guess so.
And it's kind of hard to keep on track. And there were other factors, but...
it was really the other factors that were the issue, let's be real.
But I'm deflecting.
Yeah.
So...
We're trying to come up with reasons beyond the other factors.
So in short, unusable.
Yeah. So, and to be fair, like... the New Year's story itself like was never going to make sense to our listeners. No. So what I really just wanted from that we didn't end up getting was an episode with the whole group. Lunch Table crew on at the same time, which can happen anytime in the future.
We'll see.
Hopefully. Yeah. Or heck, at least just like more than 2 of us on at a time, because so far we haven't had any more than that.
Of the crew.
Yeah. But I don't know that Polish even wants to do it.
I was going to ask, has Polly been on any?
No. I think the only way he would do it is if it was a group setting, honestly. I think he's the only one of us who... I mean, he could. I just don't think he wants to.
That's fair.
I think he thinks he works better in a group setting.
Okay.
And I think he... the way he tried to explain it to me was like... Whenever he's in a conversation with somebody one-on-one, he's very in tune to like... okay, this is who I'm talking to, so this is like
Yeah.
the type of conversation I need to be in, or the type of humor I need to
he knows
lean
well
on.
what
He knows
works
his
with
audience.
different people. Yeah, exactly. He knows
and
his
so I think
audience.
for him, the fact that like he doesn't know his
there
audience
is
as far as a
no
podcast,
definitive audience.
that's
Yeah.
right. And so like I don't think he'll be as comfortable, like he'll have to forget that it's going to be heard by anybody and pretend it's just me and you or whoever else is on. So I don't know. I would like to get him on still at some point.
I agree completely.
And then the second thing, just because I don't want to make like an announcement video about it later, I thought you and I could spend like 5-10 minutes just talk about basically what we've covered at lunch today when we were out, and just kind of talk about like the future of this channel, the future of Evco Productions, and just some of the stuff we have planned. And honestly, like I don't want to say like so like we were mapping out like future videos or stuff. Let's not cover that because we're not married to any of those ideas per se. But like as far as especially this channel and the changes that might come about in the next couple months or so, I kind of wanted to like cover that.
So I guess the first main thing, have you already talked about the name change for the channel?
I have not. This is all like brand new stuff.
There we go.
So there we go. So like in the episode that didn't pick up Jer's voice that was going to come out. Jer and I had a conversation where, and this was all his idea. I want to make that clear. Like I don't want it to seem like Jer's being like shoved out of the picture.
It's a hostile takeover.
Yeah, which because it's totally not. It was Jer's idea to start the FNS podcast. That is all him. However,
he is in the military.
He's in the military,
and he doesn't have much time now.
He's got zero time, honestly. So, like even here, when he was back for winter break, he had no time to commit to videos or podcasts or whatever.
As he may have noticed, Evan has been given stewardship of the channel, the podcast, and its related, I guess, productions.
Yeah, and just because of that, and because of what Jer was saying to me about how it was actually his idea. He was saying to me, maybe the FNS podcast or whatever brand we want to rename it to should become a part of Evco Productions, like officially, if it wasn't already, which some people might have already thought that it was.
I mean, ultimately, it is still under the charge of the same person who made Evco Productions.
Right.
So no matter what, it was going to be a natural extension of. But now it's an official part of Evco Productions.
And the reason I liked that idea, and probably would have suggested that myself at some point, is just because Evco Productions, like the name, started out as just a funny username for my social media. But when I started doing creative projects that weren't just me, but with you guys, then Evco Productions to me became like this thing of like, okay, this envelopes not just my stuff, but stuff I can do with other people. And that's why I liked doing the podcast with Jer, and then this new spinoff of the podcast with guests. And I liked doing the Little Crafters documentary on the main channel because I just like the idea of, I have so many creative friends and friends with so many different interests, and the idea of just bringing some of that all under the one
it's kind of umbrella. Like it's a framework that you can just slot in different ideas and make it all kind of a cohesive whole.
And so by the time this episode comes out, basically the father and son YouTube channel is going to be renamed Evco Podcasts. And my plan is not necessarily to have like just the one podcast. Like if you want to say FNS and Father Time are basically the same, which they basically are, it's not just going to be that anymore. I think that we're about, I want to say in the next couple months, we're about to the point that I've gone through all the guests that I can go through at least once. And
now some of us are returning. Yeah,
that's right. Clearly, because that's why Archer's back, is because I'm already running out of guests. And there's another issue that you and I have discussed before that Jer and I never really planned for, was that this podcast has a thing of like every episode is wildly different from the last.
There is very little consistency from episode to episode.
And like I like that as far as being a host and things aren't humdrum.
It keeps it interesting.
Yeah, and it's fresh every time. But I can understand how that could potentially be confusing for viewers. Potentially, just because they don't know what they're going to get each episode.
There's a bit of uncertainty.
And so in the future, and I'm talking like summer.
Yeah.
There's Archer and I have had an idea for one example, like maybe we do a podcast that is specifically focused on one topic, and in our case, the topic would be like our antiquing stuff.
Yeah, more or less kind of like a podcast version of the Antique Roadshow.
Yeah.
Except hopefully funnier. I don't know.
I don't know, maybe.
We're still working out details.
Right, but it would basically be in the spirit of the first episode that you were on, where for the last 30 minutes of that episode or so, we were basically talking about our antiquing adventures. And so I think that's something that, maybe not for an hour-long episode, but for a series of like 30-minute episodes, I think we could maintain that pretty well. And there's other audio ideas that I have. I definitely want to record some of the short stories that I've written in audio form for people to listen to, because I just want to kind of bring the stories back into the game, basically, because that's what I started out with, and then I made a wild transition into the EVCO videos.
Because we have talked about that Evan here has done a lot of different things.
Right.
And despite it all, there's still some interest in the creative writing projects.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know this for sure, it sounded to me from the way that I phrased stuff in the writing podcast episode with Jared, which was done like months ago. But I was talking around that time about how creative writing was kind of being put on the back burner for me, which is still technically true. I haven't written a lot in the last half year or so, because I've really been focusing on the videos and the podcast and having a good time changing gears, because this is as new to me as it is to anybody watching and listening, because I had never even thought about doing this stuff.
This is a new direction entirely.
Yeah, but the fact is that I still like writing. I still have stories, most of them which have never seen the light of day in any shape or form. And I want to introduce them in a way that doesn't require A, people to pay, and B, people to read.
It's
because
easier to access and it's easier to consume.
Yeah, what I learned is that people don't like to read, and what I also learned is that I am really easily blinded by my excitement to just get content out there, especially when it came to writing, and it just wasn't the best that it could have been. So the stories that are going to be read out loud by me and recorded, some of them are going to be titles that people will recognize. It's not the same story. Like, even in the ballpark. Like, I've had different, additions for one or two of the stories. This is so far beyond that. It's so different. Like
beyond being remastered even?
Yeah, beyond being remastered, it's like, in my opinion, it's an entirely different story in the case of those couple. But basically, we're always open to, one day Jer might come back. Maybe we'll have FNS Season 2.
Maybe.
And if he doesn't, it's no big deal. Because I like the idea of EVCO Productions being the video channel and EVCO Podcast being the audio channel. Because I don't want one channel that has like a bunch of blended content.
It's just too much on one channel to keep organized and keep separate.
And I don't know. I'm just excited about about diversifying this channel, basically. Like, just having different stuff going on.
And
so
I think it's interesting too, because by having all these different projects, I think that there's different things that people in your friend group will tune into more, just both as a listener and as hopefully aid in producing. Because I'm very excited about the idea of an antiquing roadshow. But of course it'd be hard to get like Polish and Jer in on that, because that's just not their thing. So I think that by having these two channels allows us to diversify even further and kind of narrow in on some niches that we all enjoy separately. I think you're right. I think it's like a fun little, it's almost a game of figuring out like, how do I approach these different sides of your friend group,
of my friend group, and the different sides of like,
how do you incorporate them into the things that you're also interested in?
Like we discussed before, like there was kind of a Venn diagram you said of everyone sees my Instagram. And then there's people that have branched off from the Instagram that watch the videos and listen to the podcast that are linked in there. And not everyone does that, but everyone definitely sees the Instagram posts. So it's kind of this game of like knowing my audience, where like I figure out based on comments or replies or likes. Like, okay, who's listening to the podcast?
Yeah.
Who's listening to the videos? And this is rough. Like, I don't know for sure everyone who's doing it. But like, roughly, roughly, this is who's listening, this is who's watching, and this is who's just seeing the post. And I kind of like try to think, okay, so if that's the case, then this is the sort of content that I want to target at them because that's how and there's times where it encompasses all of it.
Yeah,
and definitely. I think Lil Crafters being the clickbaity title that it is one of those. I've
had
a Lil Crafters podcast.
Yeah.
I've had a Lil Crafters video. So naturally that's going to get everybody here. But beyond that, there's, I think that the idea of having, there's been an FNS podcast. Now there's a Father Time podcast. Then there'll be an Antiquing Roadshow podcast. And the fact that these all have like 8 episodes to each other doesn't really bother me, especially because I'm not changing the entire channel anymore. Like, it's going to be
different, largely consistent in format.
It's different series under the same channel. The same way that like there's different series of videos and some standalone videos under the EVCO Productions wing.
These are just different seasons of different shows.
And so I don't know. It's kind of like this. Like, I don't want to call it a business.
Well,
but
I think
we're treating it semi like a brand, and
it's a pretend business.
Basically,
we're running it like a pretend business.
Yeah.
It's a multimedia corporation that's engaged in a multitude of ventures and creative endeavors.
And what is better to do than play just a big make-believe game with your friends, which is what this is ultimately.
Again, it comes back to it. This is a interesting framework that allows us all, ideally, to kind of engage these creative ventures together. This kind of pseudo corporation of EVCO Productions is that framework, and I think it's working well so far.
No, I think it is too. I think that either I have friends who are creative and I give them a chance to express themselves creatively with my stuff, like combining our stuff, or if somebody isn't necessarily creative, then I just get to like have an excuse to spend time with people.
Bring on a friend,
get
their personality into the videos, or into the whatever.
And I think that's, in some cases, that's been like the best content we've produced because
like bringing in Joshua Wong as our sound effects expert has been a thorough delight.
Just kind of Wong in the videos in general
is incredible
because
I love it.
Before Jer went to the military, basically all the roles you've seen Wong play in the last couple months would have been Jer, because Wong wasn't really a central part of the video making process up until that point. So it's been fantastic to like see him, jump from being like the person who stabbed me from behind and had no dialogue to go from that to being like the central role of Killer Claws. Like, I don't know.
What a star. What a star. A rising star.
A rising star, absolutely. And just the fact that, like, I thought, a few months ago that Jer and I would just be doing this podcast with each other forever. And, like, all respect to Jer, like, I have fun recording podcasts with him, but I didn't want to do just me and him doing a podcast forever. And so the fact that he left and I was forced basically to like suck it up and ask people, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? It doesn't have many viewers, but it'll be fun, I promise. Those have been some of my favorite episodes. So, it's just awesome. I have so much fun just
and
just doing this with my friends. Like, I never thought that my friends would be supportive to the point of like joining me. Like, I always thought they would be like, oh, Evan's doing this now.
That's cute.
That's cool. That's cute. But like for them to actually like partake in it, and some of them like willingly, like volunteering themselves to do it. Like, that's just, it blows me away.
Fantastic.
I'm very thankful for it.
And for myself, at least, I'm very excited to be here.
Well, I'm glad you are, because I need like, I said this to you before, but I have ideas on my own. I don't have the same level of just like great ideas that I have whenever I'm bouncing them off of you,
because I think
or
like,
Polish.
Great ideas only really happen when there's at least 2 people in the room.
I think you must be right, because otherwise I just don't. Otherwise I'm just not that much of an idea man as I thought I was. But
and then like So kind of going back to what we were talking about, like how EVCO Productions is this framework that people can kind of tune into based on what they like. For me, I'm I guess I'm a hobby graphic designer. I like visual medium, and EVCO Productions has been a fantastic excuse to generate ideas for things that I could make.
Yeah.
So like, I think we've briefly mentioned it before, but right now we're working on kind of like a EVCO Productions line of T-shirts.
And like the thing is last time we mentioned that was your first episode.
Yeah.
We were memeing it, like we were going like
However,
merch. However, we're 100% serious. Like I think it's going to be really fun.
I've got the designs drafted up. I'm looking at producers. Like, we're getting there.
Yeah.
And this has been fantastic because I've always wanted to put something on a shirt, and EVCO Productions has given me an excuse to.
Right.
And then, it's given me a good excuse to make posters and new
styles. You've designed a cool logo. You've got one poster already.
A bunch of book covers.
Yeah, a bunch of book covers. We'll probably have more posters in the works at some point because, I mean...
Well, as long as we have new videos and new endeavors, we'll always have more fodder for more posters.
Right, and the thing about the posters in particular is just that, like, it's not something that has to be done for the upcoming video. Like, you can go back and do posters for old videos. You can do posters for videos we haven't even made yet.
Because, the first one, and I guess my latest, the Finger Guns poster, that was well after Finger Guns itself.
Yeah. But people still liked it. Like I saw a response to it as if it were any other graphic design thing that you posted.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but that's the other reason I keep you around. I hope you realize that is like I'm only talented so far in so many directions. Like I need a graphic designer at this point.
Don't worry, I know my worth.
Yeah. Archer's probably ironically the most important, currently at least, the most important member of EVCO Productions, given that he is the almost full-time cameraman,
lighting operator,
and he is the guy who is just basically like going to be handling the brand now that it is a brand. Like he's basically in charge of that. It's like whatever ultimately you want to do is probably what's going to happen as far as that goes.
But of course, it's a two-way street because you are the facilitator.
Well, yeah, obviously. I mean, I'm the one I guess clicking post whenever I put a video. That takes some work,
To be generous, I'll say that you're like the unifier. You bring everybody together.
Sure, I'll take that. Yeah. Anyway. But yeah, God, basically the point of all this is to say that, unfortunately, of course, the school semester always gets in the way. But coming this summer, there's going to be, hopefully, God willing, so many great things and so many exciting things for us as a friend group and us as a creative team. It's going to be awesome. I think that
we're all really looking forward to it.
Yeah. But anyway, that's all we need to say as far as that's
EVCO.
That's the
EVCO,
future.
baby.
That's the future of EVCO, baby. What can I say? Archer.
Yes. Hello.
You want to play your didgeridoo on the podcast?
No, I'm good. That's downstairs. I don't want to get that.
Well, I'll keep them occupied for 30 seconds. It's fine. You're right, I won't.
Okay, yeah. Next?
Let me think here. I'm trying to think of, what's a really bizarre question that you just won't expect me to ask that I can ask of you right now?
I can't give you that question because then I'll expect it.
Well, just ask yourself the question and pretend I asked it.
I don't have any questions like that. I don't ask myself questions like that.
Why not?
I don't need to.
I ask myself bizarre questions sometimes.
Then ask me a question you would ask yourself.
I don't think you want me to do that.
No, go ahead. Try me.
Try you. Okay. Let's see. See, now you put me on the spot. I'm not going to have one.
Well, you were trying to put me on the spot, so I've deflected.
Yeah. Okay, a bizarre question. God, I just keep thinking of inappropriate things.
Yeah.
When you say bizarre question, I'm like, this is where my brain goes. I'm sorry.
We're cutting this, right?
No, we're not cutting this.
Okay.
People get to listen to us sit here for a couple minutes and try to figure out what to talk about next.
Brave.
And that's just...
brave decision.
Hey, that was the first 4 episodes of FNS was awkward pauses.
Yeah.
That's honestly that was just all of FNS was awkward pauses.
Good fun.
Right. Yeah. Do you want to talk about Let's see. Okay, so last time, here, I know what I'll do.
Oh.
Last time we recorded this,
Yes.
we were in your... Crap, it's the other way around.
We were at Evan's house. Today we are at my house.
We're in your house. That's what I meant to say. Last time we were at mine.
Continue.
So, when we were at my house, you asked me what is my favorite thing that's in the room that we're in. So this isn't your bedroom, but like...
No.
So you got a lot of Lego sets. You got a lot of helmet molds and whatnot. You've got a spear.
Yes.
So I don't know. Pick something in this room that stands out to you.
I'm going to
or the little plant right there that everyone knows and loves.
Everybody knows and loves that plant.
Well, isn't that the plant you send pictures of all the time on like Snapchat or
That's
whatever?
a fake plant, Evan. I send photos of my real plants, Evan.
You know what, Archer? I'm not a horticulturist or whatever it's called.
Anyways,
horticulturalist.
I'm going to go and grab it. I know you can't see it, dear listener, but anyways.
Yeah, just go grab the plant.
It'll help me talk about it. No, I'm not grabbing the plant. I'm grabbing something better.
Oh, you're grabbing the... Okay.
So from the... so I've brought out foam board Julius Caesar.
Foam board Julius Caesar.
So this takes a little bit of context, and if you, I guess, if you're in my grade or above, you remember Mr. Key.
Okay.
The biology teacher.
Oh, that's Keys.
Keys.
Yeah.
Sorry, I keep mixing it up. Mr. Keys. The biology teacher.
Yeah.
Best biology teacher on this planet.
Best teacher I've ever had.
As far as I'm concerned,
like,
honestly.
Yeah.
And if you were in his class, you may remember a project that we had, the Spongekin project, right?
I don't know that I do, honestly.
No? Did you guys not do like sponge sculptures? Well, okay.
Maybe. I don't know.
But anyways, it was the section where we were talking about marine biology, and we were looking at sponges, sea sponges. They're weird animals. We talked about them. But Mr. Keys gave us this project called the Spongekin Project, where more or less using a sponge or sponge-like material, you have to make a sculpture of anything. Because Mr. Keys was very cool and very generous. So he let us have more or less complete creative control. So at the time, I was kind of really first starting to get into, I guess, studying history. And I think one of my earlier fixations was just on, the Roman Empire, because who doesn't love it, I guess. And then specifically Julius Caesar for the same reason. Probably one of the more dramatic episodes in Rome's tumultuous history. But
best salad dressing.
But
I'm sorry.
No, you are.
Oh no, I'm not. Yeah.
So I for me, anytime that I had an interest, I would try any means necessary to bring that interest into whatever school projects I was given. So for this one, Spongekin, make a sponge-like sculpture out of anything. I decided I'm just going to make a bust of Julius Caesar using foam board. And I like this piece specifically because I think this was kind of one of the first major pieces where I kind of forced myself to get in touch with a lot of the tools that I use frequently now. So illustration, 3D modeling, different bits of tooling, that sort of thing. And this was kind of the first piece that brought that all together and forced me to learn a lot more about these different modes of creation. So, and I think I have this habit of biting off way more than I can ever chew. So, I guess to describe it, this Julius Caesar is a bright foam board blue. Because that's what he's made out of. And if you look carefully, you'll notice that he's actually made out of a bunch of small layers. And these are the individual layers of foam board that I had to stack on top of each other.
Because I was going to... Is that these lines?
Yeah.
Because I was going to... Like right here, it looks like he's had brain surgery.
So all of the lines that are running along Julius Caesar's head, that's where I've kind of melded all of the different layers of foam board together.
I see. Okay.
And for each of these individual layers, I had to... First, I made a 3D model of Julius Caesar's head in ZBrush, a really popular 3D modeling software. And then using different software, I kind of split that digital model up into layers, the thickness of the foam board. And then I brought it downstairs to my dad's workspace where he has the CNC. It's a giant computer-controlled router that's useful for machine cutting things very precisely into whatever design you need. So now having all these digital layers, I was able to kind of cut them into the foam board using that computer-controlled router.
Okay.
So now I have a bunch of different layers, and I just kind of glued them all together, stuck them on a stick. There you go. There you have foam board Julius Caesar.
He's quite handsome.
Yeah, I guess so.
He's staring into my soul, even though he's not looking at me.
In retrospect, I don't think that this quite hit the cultural epoch it has since, but Julius Caesar looks remarkably like a knockoff vaporwave statue.
I don't know what that is. What's
No?
vaporwaves?
Oh no!
Maybe I don't want to know.
Okay, never mind. That reference not going to land. But basically, it is very abstract.
Okay.
Because he's this bright ocean blue, and he's got this just dead stare about him.
Can I be honest with you? I think it's the dead stare, but he reminds me of Zuckerberg.
Really?
Like, yeah. That's the
God.
vibe I'm getting.
Yeah, no, I kind of see it now. I think if you look from above him, it looks a lot like Zuckerberg. But if you look at eye
like
level,
here?
yeah.
Yeah.
But if you look at eye level, it's a little bit better.
I think it's particularly also just like this angle from where I'm at. Like if you just look at him like right there, like that's very Zuckerberg-ish.
Yeah, it is. Better jawline though.
Yeah, well, better nose too.
Got that Roman nose, you know.
The Romans were known for their very prominent noses.
No, that is. The Roman nose is an actual.
Oh, actually?
archetype, yeah.
Okay. I'm just like
It's
trying
an
to make a
archetype
gag
of
here,
facial
but-
feature.
Okay.
But so yeah. So foam board Julius Caesar, he was probably one of my earliest full-scale projects and one of my more intense ones since.
I feel like I actually vaguely remember having to do a foam sculpture.
Yeah.
I have no idea what I did. I know there's no way mine wasn't absolute crap. Which, you know, and in fact, you know what probably was the case? Probably the next year, I went into Keys' classroom and saw this, likely as not, without knowing it was yours, and I probably went, God, the lucky son of a gun who has the skill to do that.
Lo and behold, it was me.
It was him the whole time.
But yeah, no, I went all out for that class, man.
No, I did too. That was one of the last times that I can remember that I like
cared about a class.
cared about a class enough to like full-blown study my butt off.
Yeah.
And like it's one of the only classes where I've ever had to study, and also the studying has paid off.
Yes.
To the extent of like I got A's on those tests. They were hard,
but
I got A's. Whereas all other classes, like either I study because I have to and I just get C's and B's and I'm lucky to get that, or I don't study at all because I don't need to and I breeze by.
Mr. Keys was great at kind of dissuading this general high school apathy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he was really great about encouraging us to actually want to do our best by ourselves without being pushed to. And that's an exceptional teaching skill that I haven't run into much since then.
No, I don't think I've run into it really hardly at all. Maybe a couple of my professors at college, but I don't know, not to the same extent. I don't think. But I don't guess you probably never saw, because when I was in his class, I was a freshman, so you were still in middle school. But he had this particular drawing on his whiteboard of me.
Okay.
Like quote unquote me. It looked like one of the Ed, and Eddie characters.
It sounds familiar.
It was like grotesquely misshapen. And it just kind of hovered in the corner. But the kicker was the hair.
Oh, the hair.
The hair started out like just a couple of, the squiggly curls. And people who were in my grade, surely some of y'all still remember this. It grew every time I was in that classroom. Every day. And eventually by the end of the year, my hair went from one corner of the whiteboard to the freaking other. I kid you not. And it was like halfway down. I
have not seen this. No.
I don't have the picture on my phone. I wish I did.
Does somebody have a picture?
I'm sure Goochlog still has it.
Good.
I could text him later and
I
see
need
if
to see that picture.
Yeah, and I'll show it to you. But man, that is, God, I'll never forget that freaking...
That's incredible.
It was like... I wanted to be insulted because it was supposed to be me, but it was hilarious. I couldn't deny that.
You can't be angry.
Yeah, I just couldn't be angry.
Who drew it first?
Oh, it was Keys.
Oh,
Like, he drew it.
oh,
It was all him. He was literally just a teacher making fun of his student.
Oh,
But the thing was, is
that's
like,
so good.
he knew that I was one of those kids
That
that
you
wasn't
could,
gonna like
yeah,
cry about
yeah,
it, you know, like.
yeah.
So it was totally.
It was all in
good
good fun, yeah.
Yeah, but he had like a nickname for me. I was like Ensign Gertis or
Ensign
something,
Gertis.
which is like a rank in Star Trek or something, which he was a big fan of. But yeah,
Oh.
I vibed with Keys, man.
Yeah.
I
I
thought he
think everybody
sounded.
did.
I thought he sounded kind of like Bill Murray, like in
Yeah.
his voice.
Just a bit.
He had like Calvin Hobbes
Yeah,
comics on his
yeah.
bulletin board. I was totally down with him. So.
Mrs. Keys was also pretty cool when she wasn't teaching choir.
Yeah, I was gonna say like we should talk about you and me's choir
Choir,
adventures
wow.
because isn't that
Choir misadventures.
That's how we
yeah.
met.
That's how we met, yeah.
right? Yeah.
Oof.
God, I can't believe that's the
Sorry.
case either.
Sorry, we're dealing with some trauma right now.
We're getting some non-flashbacks
I
here.
think, well, so what it was, at least for me, the only reason that I was in choir was because the art class was full.
Really?
Yeah.
That's right, because you went over to art
Yeah,
eventually.
like the second I could, I transferred right
You know,
to
the
art.
reason I was in choir was because I went to art in 6th grade when I first came to MCA.
Yeah.
Hated the teacher.
Oh, yeah, because I forgot there was a different one.
Left.
Yeah,
There was a different
yeah.
one before Sickles.
Miss Sickles has told me.
Yeah, I left to go to choir. I was thinking I can lip sync for 1 year. What's a big deal, you know? And then the art teacher changed. I think that
Yeah.
same year.
Yeah.
So I got
Yeah.
screwed over
You
on that.
really did.
Now I don't remember why I stayed in choir for 8th grade.
Me neither.
I really don't remember.
I don't know why I stuck around either.
It was fate because
Yeah.
that was how we became friends.
That's how it happened, yeah.
Were we? I don't even remember. Were we sat next to each other by Mrs. Keys, or did we choose to sit next to one
I don't
another?
think it was necessarily that we actively chose to sit next to each other. It's
kinda
just like,
happened?
yeah,
Okay.
like because I would have been, a new kid there, and I was just like, yeah, sure, I'll take back row. 'Cause
Yeah, right.
I don't got anybody to talk to.
Yeah.
And then we just started complaining about choir to each
Yeah,
other.
I mean, I would have.
Yeah.
I was gonna talk to you instead of talk to like the goofballs that sat
Yeah,
next
yeah.
to me. That I think were in the grade above.
because
me.
I was at least quiet.
Yeah.
for the most part.
Yeah, but anyway, I agree with you though. Mrs. Keys,
she was so cool.
she was cool,
Yeah.
and it was just like
It's just
the class was a
yeah,
bad reflection
yeah.
on her.
And I think part of it too is just because we aren't choir people
Mm-hmm.
really, and I think that we were kind of both there a little bit against our will,
Yeah,
just because we both wanted to be
it was
somewhere
the
else.
it was the lesser
Yeah.
of however many evils.
Yeah.
I couldn't
Yeah.
go to band.
Yeah,
so
wasn't about to do drama.
Yeah.
Sorry, drama kids. But
not sorry.
but that was we were stuck there.
Yeah.
So naturally we weren't going to like it. But again, she was a really cool teacher.
I
It's
think
just
if
we
we-
didn't care for the subject matter.
Right. If we had been singers, if we had been
Yes,
musically adept,
yes,
I think we
yes.
would have connected with her
Yeah,
on a
yeah.
better level, and she probably would have been one of our favorites.
I agree. Yeah.
But instead, we were stuck doing those. Do you remember the freaking? Whenever
oh.
she didn't feel like teaching, or didn't have anything, or had to work with individual people,
yeah.
she gave us those sheets
worksheets.
of the notes,
The worksheets
with the letters
were
we
the
had to
bane
write.
of my existence.
Oh my God, dude.
Oh.
It was like I hated them, but at the same time, I would. There were days where I would have rather had those than
Yeah.
pretend to sing because I did get
Yeah,
tired of pretending
yeah.
to sing. But wow,
But yeah, no, that's how we kind of first became friends.
yeah,
Just complaining about choir.
you wouldn't know it. Like the two people that were there in that classroom are not the same two people here.
No,
like
no.
we've hardly had the same interests that
Yeah,
we do now. I
yeah.
feel like.
Yeah,
Or if we
yeah.
did, they were just beginning to like.
They were
be
just starting
molded.
out. Yeah, because I know
So-
like that's when I was first starting to realize like, yeah, I like creative mediums. I like I like visual mediums.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was like
Yeah.
drawing the stick figures
Yeah,
at the time,
yeah.
but
You-
that's
you
about
were,
my
You were
extent of
getting
it.
the storytelling gears going.
Yeah, I
you know?
was for sure, but I don't think it was till like a year or so after that I had seen Back to the Future when I was like
Yeah.
11,
Yeah.
and then I watched it
Yeah.
when I was like 14 or 15, and I was
then
like,
it
holy crap,
connected.
I love movies.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and that's when I
And
got
then it
into
just
that,
took off.
and then it took
Yeah.
off.
And I think it was interesting too because I feel like kind of as we are now, we were able to kind of feed off of each other's creative stuff. You
Yeah.
know? Like you do your storytelling and then I'd like draw something for it, vice
Yeah,
versa. You know.
which is better than me drawing stick figures still, I guess.
Yeah. Anyways.
Even though I liked the stick figures. You haven't listened to the one with Adam on it yet, I don't think.
Not yet.
But he made me talk about the stick figures for a few minutes. Like, he brought them up.
Love that.
Yeah. Which I don't think it's cringy. Like, I still like them stick
yeah,
figures. I'm
yeah.
not going to lie. I think I came up with good jokes.
Yes.
And I did come up with, like, I don't know that they're stories, but I came up with good ideas that could translate into stories.
Yeah.
It's just the idea of, like, the downside is I can't really draw people, so I had to draw stick figures. But that also meant that it was simple, and I could get them done really quickly.
Just crank them out.
So, I still have piles of stick figure comics, and I treasure them.
The choir crowd was always interesting, wasn't it?
I liked that...
it was a very rowdy crowd.
Well, I was going to say, like, honestly, though, I didn't feel like they were as rowdy as they could have been.
No, definitely not.
Given the
Definitely
circumstances.
not. Because I think, again, people respected Mrs. Keys.
Yeah.
So they didn't want to...
And they knew she could get pissed if she wanted to.
Yeah. But they also knew that, like... It was a weird dynamic because she was definitely one of the stricter teachers, but she would also kind of have fun with it, too.
Yeah.
Like, she could kind of ease up a little bit and kind of, She
wasn't shy about calling people out.
Yeah.
Like, she wasn't one of those teachers that would say, the whole class is in trouble because of this one kid.
She would call
She's
them
getting
out.
the one kid in trouble. And that was rare in general,
Yes.
especially at MCA.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that, like, kudos to her for that. That's also being a good teacher.
Yeah, she definitely kept us all under wraps a little bit,
I was also going to say, I mean, choir had the prettiest girls in there. I'm pretty sure. Like, unironically, I'm just, like, flat out saying, like, middle school me probably... I think middle school me was probably down with more of the girls in choir than I was anywhere else. I was like, here's where the pretty looking ones are. I'm going there.
I don't know if that was really on my radar then.
Maybe not.
Because I think I was invested in the other friend group that shall not be named.
Yeah, let's not... I know what you're talking about. Let's not go down that road.
I was busy and it was unfortunate.
That's all you need to know.
Yeah. But regardless, that was kind of the start of the lunch table, really.
I guess it was.
Because I guess if you want to look at the current iteration of the lunch table, we would be its founding members.
Right.
And that's how we met each other.
The only way you could take it further back would be to say that, like, Goochlag had a couple of friends that graciously adopted me when I first came to MCA.
Yeah.
But the fact that, like, and this isn't really calling Goochlag out, like, he's totally, like, admitted to this, but, like, he is not a people person, even less so than anyone else in our group.
Yeah.
And so he was aware that, like me and him are good friends, and he's good friends with a couple more people, but I don't know that he would consider himself a Lunch Table Club member, even if we asked him to be. So, like, while he was there at our table, I don't know. I just
I think it was just these were two very separate events.
Yeah, and so basically, like, if you wanted to, you could trace it back to his original group. I'm just saying, like, I'm not sure it makes the most sense to, or you don't have to.
Well, I guess, like, it's also just because this iteration of the lunch table is the one that is still concurrent, you know. Yeah. And this lunch table started with choir for us. Right. Because that's how we met, and then that's how we started bringing other friends to the lunch table. Yeah. So,
although, honestly, that's all you, because I don't recall ever bringing in anybody myself.
Yeah.
Like,
because I guess the kind of the early form lunch table, that was holdovers of my friend group, where that kind of dissolved after a bunch of people left. So we just kind of formed a new one, and you were there.
Yeah. I probably, like, I think Goochlag and Jeremy probably
Jeremy
floated in because I was there, and I was already friends with them, but I wasn't like, hey, let's go eat lunch with these guys. Like, it was totally coincidence that happened. So... yeah, but it was totally you who brought in Polish.
Definitely
totally you who brought in Wong, right?
Yeah. Well, I think Wong kind of came in because we were, like, me and Paul were both mutual friends with Wong. Okay. So it was a mutual pull for both of us.
And then
Nick,
Nick, which technically he counts. He's not here that often. And he's never going to be a full member until he gets his butt in a video.
That is true. That's true. That's the new initiation, right?
That's the new, And then Jer, technically, like...
Jer brought himself in.
I guess, but he was following you guys as he tells the story.
He was following Polish. It had to have been. because I did not know
We're all
Jer.
following Polish to
That is
freaking
true.
day.
But I didn't really know Jer until he joined.
But I thought, weren't you in microcontrollers as well? Because he said that's how he knew you and Polish.
Well, yes, but I don't think, like, I just knew he was there.
Oh, okay.
I just, he was until he joined the table, I just knew him as another classmate and like, Becca's brother.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, let's be honest, though. It was the eclipse that brought him.
Yeah, no. It was a strange set of circumstances that brought Jared to our table.
Yeah. Which we never told that story on this podcast. We told the story on his old one with the Salt Vault boys. When I was a guest there, I told that story.
So,
but
the solar eclipse of, what was that, 2018?
2017.
2017.
I think, yeah.
Everybody kind of remembers that.
Yeah.
Because, like, school just halted for, like, 20 minutes while we all looked at the sun.
And Tucker tried to get us to stop looking at the sun.
Unfortunately for him, we looked anyways.
Yeah.
But, so yeah, we all went out. We looked at the sun for a little bit. We came back in, and when we came back in, lo and behold, there was a new member to the table.
Like, I don't remember if, like, the thing is, I don't remember if, like, he walked there with us, if we sat down and he just appeared, or if he was there at the table and we came and sat around him. I don't remember.
Well, I think the way that Polish would tell it was that he just walked in and said, "I'm part of your group now," and sat down.
I guess. Because
right after the solar eclipse.
Yeah, I remember he sat down next to me too. It wasn't even by Polish.
Yeah.
He sat down next to me, and I was like,
which in terms of lunch table dynamics, sitting between me and you, that's a bold move.
It is a bold move. That's true. Because wasn't it like, because it's probably, I think it was Polish on my left, and then your left of him, and then it was Jer, and then me, and there's like probably a couple people like,
but like
in the background there. But
like our lunch table was shifting constantly because there's always this flux of people coming in and out. But there were a few constants, and one of them was that I sat next to you.
That's right. Yeah, and just
for Jer to break that balance, what an entrance!
What an entrance! And that's what I told him when I was telling that story on the other podcast. I was like, you know what? Like, this was my inner monologue. I was like, you know what? I don't like this kid. I don't like that he's sat down beside me. I don't like that he's 2 years younger than me, apparently. I want nothing to do with him. And then he said his blocking out the haters joke, I think is what he said it was, with the big solar sunglasses. And as was the case with any joke at the lunch table, it was a million times more funny than it should have been.
Yes.
I laughed my butt off, and then I was like, you know what? The kid's all right.
Kid's not bad.
Vinny, get him a seat at my table. Come on.
You can stick with us, kid.
Yeah. We'll show you the way of the world.
But yeah, so that's how Jer happened.
That's how Jer happened. At that point, that's how the Lunchroom Club happened. That was us.
The final iteration of the Lunch Table Club.
Pretty much.
Current to today.
Yeah. Well, we've lost a couple members.
Yeah, a couple. But anyways.
Never mind.
Yeah. Well, I guess the lunch table was always a very interesting event. It was a daily event. There was so much ritual and ceremony surrounding it.
Yeah. It's disturbing how much ritual. Because, like, everything that we do, if we do it even twice, sometimes even once, we're automatically like, it's new ritual. Tradition. Write it down.
Codify
we're doing it every time.
It's in the books. We're doing this forever.
Even just Polish's freaking lunchbox toss.
So like
that was a ritual.
Okay, so Polish had a number of rituals.
Most of the rituals were
concerning just him. Like the main one was the daily lunchbox throw, where he would throw his lunchbox from across the gymnasium and land it on the table.
Yeah.
And then he'd walk up.
Yeah.
It slid off most times.
Yes, it did. It nearly took out my head.
A few times.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
And he had the yogurt.
Yep, the yogurt toss.
And he had, God, so many things.
It was, so everybody remembers the bottle flip.
Yeah, it was that, but with yogurt.
Bottle flip. And well after the bottle flip had died, as it rightfully should have, Polish was still doing his daily yogurt toss, where he'd flip the yogurt and inevitably land it.
And it was a gamble as to whether that yogurt was going to go and explode.
Yeah, a few times it did explode, yeah, it did.
But...
Oh, there's a few times where he'd throw the lunchbox and the
yogurt would have exploded from inside, and so then he opens it, and
but he still did it.
He still did it.
One that we had was that daily. We'd go to
the daily Coke grab, where we go up to the lunch line and get a Coke.
And then that was more or less just like our brief aside where me and Evan could talk.
Yeah.
Minus the chaos.
Yeah, I feel like you and I in particular have always wanted that, where like We just need to feel like we've had a real conversation
because
there for a
I
couple
think what it
minutes.
was is that in choir we had deep conversations.
Yeah.
Towards the end of that,
That's true.
Like we got after it, man.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that after we both escaped choir,
We lost the time to do
we
that.
needed a filler.
Yeah.
So the daily Coke grab for Evan.
Right.
And the tradition was Evan would buy a Coke, I'd buy nothing.
And you buy nothing.
I was just there for the ride.
Yeah. And the lunch ladies kind of gave you that look every time.
Yeah,
They're like, what are you doing here?
I'm here. That's it.
Yeah. and deal with it.
Yeah. And then I'm trying to think what else was there.
I don't know. I just know that like
We've forgotten a lot of them, I feel.
well, I'm sure, but I just know that like what you were saying earlier about long after the bottle flip was dead, Polish was still doing it. That's the case with like so many of Polish's memes.
Yeah.
Like he brought back Yeet single-handedly.
Yeah.
He brought back the freaking chalky milk, which I hate. I hate that so much. And what was it like just this New Year's
Lord.
Eve? Didn't he say he was gonna bring back something else?
He's bringing back something, and I'm afraid.
I'm afraid because the last two times he's 2 for 0, like or 2 for 2. Like,
because like every time that he said that he's bringing something back, there has been a brief spike,
a brief but very
that
noticeable
thing.
resurgence. Yeah.
So
There was the you see that thing up there?
oh Lord, that one. Okay, this one is. This one, I don't know.
I like.
This is maybe like the most mean-spirited we get, and it's not mean-spirited at all, which is hilarious.
Was
But
it mean spirited?
just because it's more like, what's your point?
Okay.
But
Yeah.
basically, I think it started at Polish's house. We were just chilling on one of his couches. Mm-hmm. I'm going to guess Jer said something weird
Okay.
or dumb.
Yeah.
And then, was it me or was it Paul?
That did what?
The first, you see that thing? I think it was Paul.
It was probably.
It was
I'm
probably
picturing Paul.
Yeah, that's
but
what I am too.
I could buy that it was you too.
But more or less, it's just I'm explaining a joke. That's not good, Evan.
What are you talking about? This is
Okay.
this is the Lunchroom Club Origins episode.
know,
What's
I
wrong
know.
with that?
Okay. So, but more or less, Jer said something. I'm presuming it's Jer.
Yeah.
That didn't make any sense or was very off topic. Mm-hmm. And Paul just kind of pointed at the ceiling and said, "Hey, you see that? No, like, do you see that?"
You see?
And then Jer would look up. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
And then he'd be like, "No, do you see that?"
Yeah.
Jer would say no.
But the thing is like, and he was talking about like, where's your point or what's your point?
Yeah,
But like,
because that's the
Polish
buildup.
never said that to
Paul
Jer. He never explained
said-
himself.
Yeah, no. Paul is just pointing at the ceiling, saying, "Do you see that?" For like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Nobody got it until much later.
Yeah.
But now we understand that he was pointing at nothing because he's asking, "What's your point?
Yeah.
Do you see that you're saying nothing?"
Yeah. Which
But-
is just like, God. It's baffling to me that Polish can go from the simplest of jokes to like
Just the most
big brain, like
convoluted.
like
We don't get it until like 3 weeks later.
yeah.
you
I
know?
mean, and the thing is like, at least for me, I feel like the rest of us, we pretend like we get it.
Yeah, no,
in the moment.
we do. We really
Like-
do. I've perfected my fake laugh.
Yeah,
because of this.
yeah.
group.
But it's just because there's no real leader in the Lunchroom Club. But
No.
if it is, it's Polish.
There's no leader, but one of us is definitely more powerful than the other.
That's a good way to put it. He's
But-
definitely the
So,
alpha.
well, funnily enough, though, about the "Hey, do you see that thing?" joke. Obviously, it proliferated
Yeah.
within the table culture.
Right.
It was used constantly, but it paired up with another joke because for our entire stay at MCA, there was just that balloon
Yeah.
sitting at the top of
Well, okay.
the SLC.
Because time out here, because I thought that was the origin.
What?
I thought he said, "You see that thing up there," and it was supposed to be about the balloon.
No,
I thought
no,
that was the beginning.
It was at his house.
Okay, see, I must have not been at his house then.
Yeah.
Because that's the first time I remember it was the
Okay.
balloon.
But yeah, so we already had the "Hey, you see that thing?"
Yeah.
But now we could actually point at something.
Yeah.
Because there's
which
just
is extra
this
confusing.
balloon
Yeah.
just sat there for years on end.
How did it finally get down?
There. Did it get down?
I think by the
Okay.
time I was out of there, it was down.
It must have just naturally deflated, I guess.
I guess.
But that thing was up there forever.
Yeah. Every big building like that has one of
Yeah.
those balloons or stuffed animals
So
or something that's just way
the
up
joke,
high.
the joke evolved to we're just pointing at the balloon, but it still had the same connotation of you have no point.
Right.
But so that was one of them. What else was there? Oh, I really liked how oversized our table got from
It
time
did.
to time.
Yep, from occasionally.
Because so our core group, I would say, is about 6 to 8 people if you're really stretching it.
I would say not even that. I'd say 5 or 6.
Yeah,
For the core group.
Yeah, for
like,
the core group. For core group, I'd say it's a 6 definitively.
Yeah.
But then it would just fluctuate wildly because we all had kind of mutual friends that needed a place to sit. Just because these were mostly the friends where like they would sit at a teacher's in a teacher's classrooms because they were friends like with them. Like the Hernandez crowd would usually crash with us.
Atchison, Robert, Jeremy sometimes did that.
So when the teacher wasn't there or they couldn't access that classroom for whatever reason, we were the de facto table because we were all kind of mutual friends.
Right.
So the table size would just fluctuate wildly. So yeah, there were days where it was like 3 people there.
Yes.
And it was just a couple of the core members because there's like some event that the football kids were at or the art kids were at or whatever, or TAPS was happening.
Right.
But there were other days where it almost approached like 20.
Yeah.
And this is a small table.
Oh, no, it's no, like, the table we're at is like it's longer than it was
about
wide,
5 foot in diameter.
Yeah.
So it's a perfectly round table that we all sat around, hence the round table. But on certain days, it would be to the point where you have the table, you have people sitting at the table, and you've got rings of people, concentric rings of people sitting around the table.
Because there wasn't enough room for all our chairs, so like some people were sitting on the outskirts.
So there's people sitting behind people,
Yeah.
but all centered at the table.
And the problem was we were all trying to talk to people that was on the other side of the table. Like,
and it was just this mess of dialogue. But I still think, like, if you could have taken a picture of it, it would have looked like a Renaissance painting.
I'm sure it would have.
There were so many people doing so many things in such a close space.
I would have liked to get like a panorama.
Yes.
So you could see us all. But God, I wish now that you say that somebody had taken a picture of us all.
But yeah, we defended that table fiercely.
We lost it only a couple times, and we learned pretty quick that we just need to not be late to lunch.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like somebody's got to be there first to hold the spots.
Yep. And for the most part, we did.
Yeah.
Somebody was there to take it.
Even though...
Well, because I remember for a while it was me because I had art.
Right.
So I could just walk on out.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But there was a few months there, I felt like, where...
The table was in exile.
Well, not only was the group so large, it was like people that I would never have expected to join us were joining us.
Yeah.
Like...
It definitely...
Guys were bringing in their would-be girlfriends, and like... The girlfriends occasionally were bringing in their friends, and I was like,
it's like, well, this is an unaccounted for dynamic.
Yeah.
Okay.
and like, I don't necessarily have a problem with those people.
Yeah.
It was just like the dynamic of humor was way off at that point.
Certain days.
Because I feel like, I think we all felt uncomfortable around girls in terms of like making certain jokes that we would normally make.
We had to temper down our humor a bit, I think. Just because, not because it was bad or anything, just because it was so abstract. You know?
Same reason we taper it down for this podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, and really for the videos too, because there are videos that we've made where
they're just...
There's a couple of clips that are like, we're like, oh, we should do this. And then I go back when I'm a sound mind and I'm like, no one's going to want that.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of weird dynamics at that table. All in all, though, very thoroughly enjoyable, I feel.
Yeah. My question is, do you think, like, would it be worth it to live through, like, a whole day of school in your old body just to, like, re-experience a Lunchroom Club day at its, like, fullest?
Yeah, that'd be no problem for me.
You think so?
Yeah.
I would probably do that, but I don't know. Sometimes
it's just
like,
school. It's whatever.
I guess.
And like if I had the same sound mind that I do now.
Yeah. Well, hey, if we had our minds back then, we would have been kings. But
fair.
That goes without saying.
That's why we're kings now, right? Right.
No, but that just goes for everybody, I think. I mean, you get smarter when you get out of high school, so.
But, I'd do it. Yeah. Like, for the most part, I enjoyed my MCA experience.
Okay.
I gelled with most people.
Yeah.
So I was chilling.
Okay. I don't know. It would depend on the year.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know that I could do it for sophomore, junior year. Those weren't good years for
Yeah.
me. If I could relive a senior year day, then I would probably do that.
So for me, I would have opted senior year just because the table wouldn't have been its fullest for us.
Well, yeah, for you it's different.
Because I feel like senior year, especially towards the end, was very melancholic. Just because the table had declined significantly.
Yeah.
It was just the core members, and there was this understanding that, we're about to leave Jer alone.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I don't even want to think about poor Jer, like the last of the lunchroom members.
Because Jer was definitively the youngest. He was
Yeah.
the grade below us,
Yeah.
me and Paul and all of them. So when we left, the table
That was
dissolved.
it. Yeah.
But he was still there.
Yeah.
May do, but
You know, we have 1 year left, not counting the rest of this one, that my youngest brother Adam will still be at MCA.
oh
Imagine
no. We have an excuse.
that we use
storm
that
the
as an
table.
excuse to visit him, to storm in and recreate the Lunchroom Club dynamic
Oof, wow.
for one
Wow.
afternoon.
Just like find out when their lunchtime is.
Yeah.
Pop in like 15 minutes early. Take the table.
Take the table. The world would not be ready for that.
Don't even stop by the front office to say hi to Miss
No,
McLean.
no, screw that. I don't want to say hi to her.
She's nice. I liked her.
I didn't like anybody.
I like
in the
most
office.
teachers. You don't.
Well, that's not true. I just don't like teachers that are crappy teachers.
Right.
Like-
Anyways.
Or teachers who just somehow have been doing this for years and must, based off of that, want to be a teacher and yet act like they don't.
Interesting.
I felt like a lot of teachers had that vibe where like they would have the plaque that said, I've been a teacher for 15 years or whatever. I was like, really? Like, you seem miserable doing it.
I don't know. I think it's just like I got along with most of my teachers.
Well, that's just
I
because
was
you like
chilling.
you're naturally inclined to get along with people. If I can find something wrong with somebody, especially back in those days, like if I could find something wrong with somebody, I tended to find something
Like distance yourself
and
maybe.
just note it
Yeah.
and like be wary of it.
That's
I guess.
fair, I guess. Yeah. I mean, I definitely kept tabs on that, but
Yeah.
I guess like I didn't use that as an excuse to kind of like distance myself.
Yeah.
Really.
I also might just be less
Yeah.
less social than you in general. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know.
I feel like I'm more like introverted as time goes on.
Because
Honestly.
I think I might be the inverse of that then.
Okay.
Because I think as I've gotten into university,
Yeah.
I've been becoming more extroverted and kind of finding my footing with more people, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, and what I mean by that is like people have this thing is like, oh, introverts means you never hang out with anybody. What I mean by that is like I'm definitely branching out and hanging out with more people and doing bigger things. But what I find is that I need more recovery time between
that's fair.
hangout sessions. So
Because I guess like for me, it's nowadays it's definitely a thing of like I haven't talked to anybody for half a day. Please help.
well, there is this certainly like the boredom aspect. As far
It's
as
not
that
even
goes.
boredom because I am keeping busy.
Really.
It's just like I literally need to talk to somebody or I'm going to die.
Really.
Yeah.
For me, it's boredom because I don't know, and it's not just the pandemic. It's the fact that like literally, I run out of things to do within the 24-hour time frame that I have
Per day.
and so like that's. I don't know. I've got to find more, which is weird. Like I have more hobbies than ever now, but somehow I still don't have enough.
I think it's just that
to do.
Given current situations, it's harder to actually execute those things.
I guess that's it, but I don't know.
Yeah. But so yeah. But
Well-
so a brief aside, I took differential equations this winter.
Yeah.
And
Talk about what a big mistake that was, Archer.
I will not say it's a mistake. I don't necessarily regret it. I'm
Okay.
glad that I've done it, but I will
got it out of the way.
never do that again.
Yeah.
So
Never do a winter class again, or never do that particular class again.
well, hopefully not that same class again. I passed.
Well, yeah, obviously, but like,
both.
okay.
So so as part of my course load for architectural engineering, I got a lot of math classes, man.
Yeah.
And my freshman year, a big thing that contributed to most of my stress was the daily stream of math homework. Because math, sometimes I feel like I'm in the wrong major just because engineering is a math major.
Right.
It's applied math. And, I can do math.
Yeah.
I don't know if I enjoy it though.
Yeah.
So already I wasn't well tuned to math anyways, but freshman year really kind of woke me up to the fact that these math classes just take up so much time, and I'm already running out of time for my other classes. So for I guess what is now my sophomore year, I've decided I am not taking a math class during my main semester, during fall or spring. So that means that I've done 2 math classes now during summer and now winter. So I did Cal 3 over summer, and I just finished differential equations like 3 days ago.
So would you say, is there like a thing in the last semester or two for you where it's been like have you had to try to figure out, is it worth doing these particular classes that I really hate in order to still do ultimately something I'm interested in? Because I know you're interested in architectural engineering, but like, have you had to debate like the price of doing these math classes?
So
and stuff?
like, not going to lie, there have been more than a couple of days where I'm just like, I'm panicking about homework, and I am just terrible mood, and I'm like, why am I doing this to myself?
Yeah.
But usually I still decide that it's worth it.
Okay.
Because I mean, this is ultimately, I'm an architecture kid.
Okay.
That's just who I am.
Yeah.
And this is how I get there. Yeah, sure, I know there's an architecture major, but whatever. I didn't ask. But, well, okay, so going back a little bit, the reason that I've decided on engineering and not architecture proper is because I want a decent salary in my life.
Right, that's what you said.
And
to me, I thought was...
there's still multiple pathways for me to go. Well, so I guess, so before really hammering in what major I wanted to pursue, I did talk with a lot of industry professionals, like a lot of architects, just to kind of see what did they think about the field. Were they enjoying it? Did they think architecture school is worth it?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, most of them were kind of almost disillusioned with the field.
Huh.
Like Miss Sickles, she was an architect.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I talked with her a lot, my art teacher.
Yeah.
But again, it wasn't quite what she expected.
Huh.
Because ultimately, I think architecture is in a really bad spot as a profession right now. Just because it has the worst elements of a STEM profession, because it has all of that technicality behind it, all those codes, all those regulations, all those standardizations that you have to meet, all the certification you have to go through.
Yeah.
But it's also has the worst elements of an art major, in the sense that there's too many people to meet, or too many people for the demand in the industry. So what you get is that you have these people who pour in so much time into this major, but when they get out of it, the job market just isn't there for them, because the job market still treats architects as a creative major, as expendable, not really necessary. They just do the pretty side of it, so we don't really need them. So that's kind of the unfortunate part of where the industry is at the moment. So that was a big reason why I deflected into architectural engineering, because the general thing that I've gotten from most of the people that I talk to is that do the math first, do the technical stuff first, get the engineering out of the way, because you can always pick up the aesthetics afterwards. Whereas, because you do have to go through a proper college course to get engineering certification, because that's where you get the training and the practice for all of this technical knowledge.
Yeah.
And then after that, after you've got that foundation, then you can start to branch off towards the aesthetic sides of things, because that's less intensive generally.
Right.
Granted, I think that the architecture major has done a fantastic job of making the aesthetic portion unnecessarily difficult and time consuming, based on my architecture friends and industrial designing friends. But that's them. So this is kind of this is my route towards doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
And it comes with this implicit understanding that it's gonna suck for a bit, but this is, as best I can tell, the most viable path forward for me.
Fair enough.
So yeah, some days I do wonder, is it really worth it? But it's almost, for who I want to be, it's almost a necessity.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But so yeah, back to the story. I've done differential equations, and this is by far one of the worst classes I've ever done. It's a type of math that just doesn't make sense to me because it is very theoretical, and the application just was non-existent. I appreciate math most when I can understand what I need to use it for, and I can see why I'm using it.
Okay. Sure.
Differential equations, I did not understand it then, I don't understand it now, and I don't understand why I needed to know it.
Yeah.
And they did not give me any application for it, so I'm just kind of like, okay, I guess, thanks. So there's always this kind of idea of, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
I don't understand why I need to know this. So that kind of beat me down a little bit. But also, specifically, I do not ever want to do a winter class. Because in winter, the sun goes down early.
And when the sun goes down, I'm done.
Yeah, that's really what it is. The productivity just declines.
Yeah.
So that wasn't great. That made me take way too long to complete assignments. I'd end up having to stay up really late just to be on track.
Yeah.
But kind of going back to what we were talking about previously, the other thing that was killing me, especially towards the end, was that it was taking up so much time, and I knew I needed to focus very hard on this class so I could pass it. Because I was in danger of failing it for the final.
Really?
Because I remember for the final, I had to make a 45 to pass the class, which isn't a lot.
No.
But the problem is, I wasn't sure I could actually make a 45.
Yeah.
So for the last week or so, I was just stressed out of my mind. It was like freshman year all over again.
Yeah.
But because I knew I needed focus, I knew I also shouldn't talk with people. And that also just drove me insane. Because for a week, I just kind of cut off everybody.
Yeah.
Isolated myself. And that just did not feel good. So, like, one of the first things I did after the class was over was I called a friend to talk.
Right.
You know, just to decompress and actually hear somebody else's voice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, don't do winter classes, man.
Don't do winter classes. It's almost like somebody told you that.
You did not, for the record.
I did.
No, you just said, why are you doing this? You never said that
well,
I should.
in that tone of voice that would suggest you shouldn't do this.
But you never said I shouldn't.
Okay, but even if I had, you
because you'd ask, why are you doing this? I'd explain, and they'd be like, okay.
Well, yeah.
Anyways,
because I'm not a debater like you. Like, if you give me a reason why you're doing this, I'm just gonna be like, all right,
okay.
I respect you. Go ahead, do it.
But it's done.
It's done.
It's done, and I am free for 5 days.
Yeah. Well.
Anyways.
Anyway, that's all right.
Yeah.
Well, we have definitely surpassed an hour, so if you want to wrap it up, then we can go ahead.
Yeah. So this has been the latest episode of Just Father Time?
Just Father Time.
Just Father Time for the time being.
For the time being. It may never be Father and Son again. Who knows?
We may just rebrand entirely.
Jared may just die.
Oh. Don't say that. He's
not
in
even,
the military.
No, not even because of the military. Like, just in general.
Oh, okay.
For some other reason.
Okay.
Not that I have anything to do with this.
Yeah.
I realize suddenly I sound suspicious. This was meant to be just a dark joke.
Dear listener, keep an eye on Evan for a little bit.
It's backfired on to me.
If you don't hear from Jer for longer than usual, please reach out.
Well, the problem with that is longer than usual for Jer is like...
It's already concerningly long.
Yeah, like I already sometimes think like, maybe Jer's just dead. I haven't heard from him in months. Like...
But... Anyways,
this has been Father Time. Great episode. Thank you for coming back, Archer.
Glad to be here.
This will probably be the last thing that you get to do for EVCO until summer, I guess, because we're pretty much done here and we're going back into school.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm going to do my best to keep this channel alive during the spring semester.
Yep.
But otherwise, as far as videos and stuff goes, then we'll see you back here in several months to hopefully do the Antiquing Roadshow and hopefully to...
And a few other things that we haven't shared
yet. A few other awesome
yet.
things that we were not going to tell you because the surprise is just going to be too dang good.
Right.
Thanks for sounding so convincing.
Yep.
All right.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you.